Alright guys and gals, this is a long playing review for Sly Spy Secret Agent on the Amstrad CPC, released by Ocean Software in 1990. An arcade coin-op conversion of a popular Data East game from 1989 that, if you're a James Bond fan, you'll be in 007 heaven, because it's a massive rip-off, and I'm shocked that the Broccolis didn't heavily sue them into the ground, which we'll explore as we go through the game. Now, those of you with good memories and have been following me for a long time will know that I have previously done a long playing review for this game on the channel over 12 years ago now, and aside from it being a low quality in a staggering 480p, and my mic was something that I bought from a supermarket and I still hadn't worked out how to remove hiss from my voiceover, the real reason that I'm covering this game again today, not just to do a better job of it. Firstly, I tracked down the original coder Dean Belfield and had a chat with him. And secondly, like Renegade Reloaded a few weeks ago, some clever person has gone and improved the original game. You see, the big problem with Sly Spy on the Amstrad was it was deathly silent. And it was weird. Otherwise, it was shaping up to be a pretty darn decent arcade conversion. So up pops Jean-Marie on the CPC Wiki Forums with a new version of the game, with 10 new music tracks added in, all taken from the Atari ST version. Of course, that machine uses a very similar AY sound chip to the Amstrad CPC. So it's this version of the game that we're going to be checking out and long playing today, and we'll see how much of a difference it makes. Plus, after, we'll compare it to the other conversions released on the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, Atari ST and Amiga. But first, let's take a look at the arcade coin-op version and talk about its history and what you have to do in the game. So here it is, released by Data East in 1989.
Sly Spy.
Sly Spy. Oh, look at this! Look at this! Living Daylights poster, the alternative poster, and there's President Ronald Reagan. Oh, look, he's about to be taken hostage and kidnapped by jetpack guys. More on that in a second. And I say we'll take a quick look, but we'll do a heavily edited and abbreviated look through the whole game as quick as we can. Seeing as I did also do a long play of the arcade coin-op on my channel, and I still have the footage. Plus, not to reveal too much spoilers. Oh, look, everyone enters 007 here, pretty much. But the Amstrad version does do a pretty close job of replicating the arcade version. How well, though, we'll judge in a bit. But if you want to skip forward to the Amstrad version, well, jump to the 12-minute mark on the video. And we'll take a look at how many Bond-isms this game does rip off from the James Bond franchise. For example, here in the opening level, it probably plays homage to the pre-title sequence in Moonraker. And also here, the pre-title sequence in Spy Who Loved Me, where he unfurls a parachute revealing the rather unsubtle flag of his country. Except it's not the British flag, but the American one. And here, the end of the second level, the baddies rappelling down reminds me of the ninjas doing the same in the volcano base in You Only Live Twice.
Great job.
Great job. And now, level 3, which is the bike level. Well, the bike and the helmet is rather reminiscent of the unofficial rival Bond movie Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery. And talking of Sean Connery, the jetpack guys, which you'll see here in a second, is kind of reminiscent of the jetpack in Thunderball. There we go. End of level boss here. Which is ridiculously easy to take out the guy in the car. And you can jump on the bike rather high. Level 4. Oh yeah, he arrives in a red Ferrari. Kind of reminiscent of the Red Lotus Esprit in For Your Eyes Only. Oh look, there's advertisement there for Chelnov. And also later in the level, there's advertisement for Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja. Data East like to advertise their own games a lot. It's rather dodgy. Oh yes, you can pick up pieces for the golden gun. The man with the golden gun. Rather unsettled. This is rather like the Cobra weapon in Data East's Robocop game. Works very similar. I'll pay attention to that as well. Oh, Jaws! It's Jaws from The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Except now he's got iron fists. As well as his teeth. Level 5, the scuba level. It's rather like the undersea battle in the finale of Thunderball. Which is rather drawn out and boring in the movie from what I remember. Oh yes, we get the first brief appearance of the boss in the diving gym suit, or the JIM suit. He does come back in the later level, who rather memorably attacks Bond in the shipwreck from For Your Eyes Only. And now we're actually fighting a shark. It's like, it's Jaws. It's actually Jaws from the movie Jaws. But that's nothing to do with James Bond. Back with the red Ferrari. And it's another rather standard side-scrolling shooting level. Advertising Karnov there. Tigers as a boss. Maybe a nod to Octopussy where Bond encounters one where he tells one to sit. And it does. Who knows? He still has to rescue a tied-up Bond girl. Yeah. What's with the killing of animals in this game? You have to shoot lots of dogs earlier on. I don't like that. Don't like that. Level 7, underground base, very Bond villain-esque. Yeah. Later in the level, there's stolen Soviet submarines, which is very The Spy Who Loved Me. And you also get to fly in a jetpack if you kill the right jetpack villain. Very Thunderball-esque. We saw that earlier in the game. And the boss, it's Oddjob from Goldfinger. I mean, how more obvious is that? Steel-brimmed bowler hat. Good grief. Most obvious grounds for suing from the Broccoli estate, I'm sure. Level 8 is the second scuba diving level. Actually, this is not too annoying for an underwater level. It actually plays rather nicely. Sharks drop cola cans. Who knew? Right. And now we're actually fighting the boss in the diving gym suit again. From the shipwreck in from For Your Eyes Only. Most ridiculously easy boss ever if you know where to sort of stay. Look at this. Very easy. Wow. It's actually much harder in the Amstrad version, actually. There you go. We start the final level, level 9, with a decapitated Robocop. Again, Data East did the Robocop game. And we start at the end of the level. We're supposed to be climbing up a missile. And I guess this might be a nod to Moonraker. Possibly. And it's a boss rush. We see all the bosses at the end of the levels from level 2 here. And then we get Jaws. And then I think we get the Tigers. And then Oddjob again. Then we get the final boss with a spiked ceiling descending. It's actually really easy, and there's the boss there. I think he eventually starts throwing a cigar at you. Yeah, and there you go. And cue the end titles. There's President Ronnie. Apparently tells us you missed a few things. Better go back and get them. Yeah, sod off. And cue the pretty ladies. Apparently that's President Ronnie's daughters. Who knew? And there you go. Nice little end sequence there. And if you stick around for a little bit, you get a high score. You get a rather nice little ooh Sly. It's a very Roger Moore-esque thing. Here we go. Wait for it.
Oh, Sly.
Oh, Sly. Alright, enough of that nonsense. Let's get to the Amstrad version. And if you did end up buying the full price original, well done, because it was quite hard to find in shops at the time. For some reason, Ocean, despite advertising it hard prior to release, once done, they didn't seem to distribute it well and just lost all interest in the game. Very odd, considering they must have paid a lot for the license, it was easily marketable, and none of the conversions were stinkers. So most of you would have probably bought this on its Hit Squad budget re-release. And good luck finding the full price one on eBay. I remember seeing the Specky one going for near 250 quid a few years back. Ouch! But notice how the Hit Squad release here uses free screenshots from the Amstrad version here. Testament how good the graphics are. But fantastic artwork from the late great Bob Wakelin here. And notice also the Sly Spy character looks like an amalgamation of the three James Bonds: Sean Connery, Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton. Anyway, let's get into the Amstrad version at last. So if you want to download this game, you can get it from the CPC Power website, but you're best getting it from the CPC Wiki Forums topic, because Jean-Marie is posting updates to this version, several updates actually available. One with the levels actually fading in and out the graphics, which makes it look a lot nicer. But links in the description on the video. Here it is loading in the patches and the music. And we'll get a nice loading screen very shortly. And some cheats, which you can load in. We're selecting no here. We're going to play it as we should. And CNG soft crack here. And here's the loading screen. See some nipples on that lady. Software Creations, bottom left corner. So Ocean sent this out of house to Software Creations to handle, who were also based in Manchester like Ocean. I suppose they're relatively famous of having the Follin brothers, Mike, Tim and Jeff. And coding duties here are by Dean Belfield, who very kindly agreed to be interviewed. Thank you, Dean. You can read more of his current coding exploits and adventures on his Twitter account at BreakIntoProg. There will be a link in the description on the video too to that. You also did the Specky version, and we'll come back to Dean in a minute. On graphical duties, we have Craig Houston, who also did Rambo First Blood Part 2 for Ocean, and also on his very first game and job, Simon Street. Both have done excellent graphical work here, which you'll see shortly. For the title screen music and the next jingle you'll hear when we enter our digit code, it's Jeff Follin and not Tim Follin, you might have expected. His only other Amstrad work was the disappointing Gauntlet 3. So as we listen to this title screen music, I'll take this opportunity to talk a little about what Dean told me. And he was about 19 years old when working on Sly Spy. So bear that in mind and think what you were doing when you were 19. He tells me they were loaned an arcade board which was plugged into a cabinet in the office, and that was it. No maps, no code, no graphics from Data East. Everything was done from their memory or photographs taken by a guy called Andy Frelful. Dean was a fan of James Bond, but he wasn't a fan of the arcade game, thinking it was a bit shallow, but he liked the visuals. I asked him how long Ocean gave him, and he thinks he was around 8 weeks, give or take a couple of weeks, so it could be anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks then. But I got curious and asked, was it the same length of time for the Spectrum port, and were both versions cross-developed at the same time? And did they share similar Z80 codes? Because, as we'll see later, they seem to be quite different versions for once. And Dean answered, now this is interesting. Mike Follin, up to that point, did the Spectrum conversions, but he moved on to Game Boy development. So I had to code both versions at the same time. I decided to concentrate on the Amstrad version as it felt it had potential to be a good looking game. I developed the Spectrum version in tandem at home in the evenings. They don't share much code other than the music driver. I didn't want this to become a lazy Spectrum port. The decision nearly finished me off though. Blimey. So there you go. The Amstrad version came first for once. Wow. Anyway, let's get the game up and running. And here, nearly everyone enters 007 as their security code. So thank you, Dean, for that answer. That was really interesting that he prioritised the Amstrad version first before the Spectrum one. Kinda. It's quite unusual that the Amstrad one kind of got prioritised. That's nice to know, and it does show, as we'll see later on. We're going to have a look at the Spectrum version and the other versions after we get through the Amstrad game and long play it. I don't know what's up with the music here. It's playing way too fast. This has not been brought in by Jean-Marie. This music did exist in the original version if you have 128k of memory. This music is new though. This is from the ST version. Good morning, 007. Counter for world domination terrorists have infiltrated the city. Get them before they kill innocent people. And here we are on the skydiving mission, ripped off from Moonraker. And of course the parachute opening ripped off from The Spy Who Loved Me. And the music here really makes a huge difference. And adds just a real extra bit of excitement to the game. Because before it was absolutely deathly silent. Here we go, here's the parachute opening. A la Spy Who Loved Me. And also, the version I'm playing here has the graphics fading out at the end of a level. A little bit of graphical corruption as the level starts though, sadly. And new music here for level 2. And it does add a bit of excitement to the game. It makes a huge difference in my opinion. It really does. And here's the baddies rappelling down. Just like in You Only Live Twice, the volcano base. If you notice there, some of the bullets do go through enemies when they're shooting their gun. I think there is a little bit of iffy collision detection in this game. One of CWD's leaders is escaping by car. Look for black sedan. There was a disc load and a tape load there. So you get the first 2 levels in one load. Level 3 is a separate load. Jetpack guys. Sadly, I think this is the only level in the Amstrad version where the jetpack guys appear. In the arcade version, and I think in the Commodore 64 version, the jetpack guys do carry on through the other levels. So one negative I'm bringing up now is the jetpack guys don't reappear in the rest of the game, and they should do. But a lovely colourful background there of the city there. Essentially the buildings there is on like a constant loop. But really colourful, really nice. And the music's pretty good as well. There is a jetpack guy that's supposed to spawn from the left of the screen. I think he only appears once. There he is, and they're supposed to drop bombs on you. There he is. Oh, you can jump over a mine there. So the bike can jump. And the boss appears here. He's very easy. All you got to do is fire one bullet at a time at him. And easy is unfortunately a common problem with Sly Spy. It's a pretty easy game. That fading out of the graphics there is a new thing added in by Jean-Marie. So if you downloaded the this new version of the game pretty as soon as it was released by Jean-Marie, This is a later update by Jean-Marie, so go back on the CPC Wiki Forum topic and have a look. He's done a new update, adding that fade out of the graphics. So get that. Nice new music on this level here. This boat and yacht thing looks really nice and colourful. Coke can there, replenishing energy. Golden gun pickup. Bullets went through that enemy there. So yeah, that is a bit of a bug, unfortunately, that's not been fixed. I think there's collision detection issues in this game. My top tip on this game, though, is before you scroll the screen, fire off a couple of shots before the screen scrolls, and it will take out the enemies waiting on the next screen, basically. And I don't know why, essentially, the screen doesn't scroll all the time. Oh, it's the Jaws boss! And if he touches you, you lose your gun. And you go into fists and kick mode. On the arcade original, you can avoid that happening, but it's unavoidable on the Amstrad version. He will always eventually just jump into you, and you lose your gun. And my top tip, basically, just stay far left all the time. I'm moving here to the middle. But basically, the Jaws boss here, he's... oh, there you go. There you go. It's hard to know when you're actually doing damage on him without any sound effects. And knowing when... or time to go swimming. Don't forget your harpoon. Without any sound effects knowing when you're actually doing any damage on him, it's hard to know, well, when you're doing any damage. Right. A little bit of slowdown there on the music playing, but no slowdown in the actual game itself. Just slow down on the music playing back. The smaller fish there can't be hurt by your harpoon, but everything else can be destroyed and killed. More animals being hurt in the game. You can kill dogs. You can kill the sharks. Later on, you can kill tigers. What is it about killing animals in games in the 80s? I don't like it. I'm not a fan of that, personally. Am I being a bit soft here? I don't know. But I don't like that kind of stuff in games. But there you go. There you go. That's the 80s for you. But in this level, the game scrolls all the time. And it actually works much better that way. On the previous level, where you were on foot, the game scrolls as you reach the edge of the screen. It's like a push scroll system. Oh, the gym suit guy. He disappears and baggers off. And then you're actually fighting Jaws. I don't mean Jaws the villain from The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. You're actually fighting freaking Jaws the shark here. Alright, okay. But yeah, on this underwater scuba level, the screen scrolls constantly all the time, and it actually works a lot better. And that makes the game a little bit less easy, because the push scroll system, fire off a couple of shots before you scroll and then move and scroll the screen, and it kills the enemies waiting on the next screen, and that makes the game far too easy. I did ask Dean about that. But let's talk about the hardware scrolling here. CW's leaders are at the Georgetown warehouse. The hardware scrolling, and I think it's using the Amstrad's graphics chip and the CRTC, as it's known. And it registers R12 and R13 to define the start address of the screen, and then R3 register for the horizontal sync. And then I'm guessing it must be 2 screens in a double buffer to get it down to a smoother 2 or 1 pixel scroll or something. But I did ask Dean about the hardware scrolling here, because he's also used it in his other Amstrad games like LED Storm and Ghouls and Ghosts. And it's quite unusual to come across a coder in the commercial days using this technique in their games. I can literally count on the fingers of one hand the number of coders I can remember doing this. Unfortunately though, Dean says you can't recall much of the specifics here. Sorry. And all he can say is, I must have done. And then later apologises for his final Amstrad work, something he calls a lazy Spectrum port for Gauntlet 3 The Final Quest. But that was, and he quotes, and I quote, mostly because of time constraints, he adds. But we've all come to understand that now, thanks to insight into the game industry, thanks to interviews with game coders in magazines like Retro Gamer magazine, or Dean sharing his stories like with us today. And we find out that bosses at game companies put ridiculous deadlines on the shoulders of young coders like Dean at the mere age of 19. Oh god, we're killing tigers here. God, sorry. And that these game companies that we loved, like Ocean and US Gold, well, we didn't love US Gold as much, ended up nothing more than factories pushing out product as quickly as possible. Often it's not the coder's fault if the game kind of sucked or was unfinished. So when I asked about why doesn't the walking level scroll all the time like the bike and the scuba levels did, or the missing things at the end of the final level, sorry, spoiler alert, the simple answer from Dean was time constraints. So the big question was, why does Sly Spy have no in-game music, but more puzzlingly, no sound effects? Not even a simple pfft, you know, for his gun or when a baddie is hit, which surely would have only taken a few measly bites. And here's what Dean said. Oh heck, someone brought this up last year. I honestly have no idea. I'm pretty sure the finished copy I had contained music, but it was such a long time ago. I suspect I simply ran out of time optimizing it for mastering, and Ocean just shipped it as is. So, sadly, this remains a mystery. There you go. Oh look, Russian submarine here. Nod to the spy who loved me. And jetpack guy should be here, and if you actually kill a jetpack guy in the arcade version, he drops a jetpack you can pick up and fly around this level, and yeah, never mind. Nice music here, and we're about to fight Odd Job from Goldfinger. But anyway, thank you, Dean, for having a long chat with me. Unfortunately, you couldn't remember that much. It's just, I don't blame him, though. It's like 30, nearly 40 years ago now. Well, actually 30 plus years ago. But thank you, Dean. I appreciate for your time chatting to me, mate. Much appreciated. Okay, what you want to do is shoot the Odd Job villain in the head when he's throwing his hat. So have a little jump and time it just right. Okay, it's hard to know when you're doing damage on the boss. Very nice sprite work though. You got to commend the Amstrad version here. That's really, really nice. Oh, let's talk about magazine reviews. So the full price release was never reviewed by Amstrad Action. Again, really odd from Ocean. Again, they never sent it out to review for magazines. And they just sort of abandoned the game when it was actually done and never really got it into shops. So very, very odd. But the budget re-release on the Hit Squad label was reviewed in Amstrad Action in a rather bizarre review in the August 1992 issue 83 magazine by a rather unimpressed Adam Peters, who could be a bit unpredictable and baffling with his reviews at times. I mean, he rated the rather inferior Midnight Resistance at 86% on the same page, and he said he'd rather stick my head into a bucket of warm porridge than ever play Sly Spy again, and I don't like porridge. Maybe the short levels and a nightmarish tape multi-load got to him, who knows? Because Sly Spy ended up with an AA rating of 31%. which is, wow, that is overly harsh. Good grief. As for my review, I'll do it now actually. I think on my old video 12 years ago, I gave it a 7 out of 10 score. And a few weeks ago on the Am stream, when we looked at this new version, I asked people in the live chat to rate the old and then new version. Again, stupidly easy boss here. A little bit harder than the arcade version because he actually shoots out rockets. Anyway, on the Am stream, I asked people in the live chat to rate the old and then new version, and the average score for the old version was about 7 out of 10, like my old score actually. And the new version was about 8 to 8.5 out of 10. And you know what? I kind of agree with her. I'll go with the Amstream community and rate this 8.5 out of 10. And give it an 85%. Oh, look! Decapitated Robocop there. And yeah, I'll give it an 85% for this new update with the music. Yeah. And I'll summarise what should be done after we finish this final level here. Because this final level is pretty short. Very, very short. And you'll see why in a second. Because here should be a missile ready, preparing to take off, and all the bosses from the previous levels in a boss rush. And they're all missing. Where are they? Where's the bosses? They're not there. Anyway, here's the final boss. There should be a spiked ceiling coming down, slowly coming down, ready to crush us. It said, here's the boss. He's chucking flaming cigars at us. Anyway, we killed him. There you go. Game done. Congratulations, Sly. You have stopped CWD and saved the world. Game over. And not much of an ending, sadly. Oh, well. So, yeah, there you go. I'll give this 85%. For this new update with the music. Yeah. I mean, if it could have a few sound effects for the gunshots and hits on enemies, that would have made a big difference. But it would needed to have also fixed some iffy hit detection too, to go into like the 90% range. There's also some missing content like the jetpack enemies and the boss rush of the final level, and having an ending with a nice picture of the Sly Spy outside the front of the White House of all the Bond girls, and then him riding off into the sunset with them in his Ferrari. And ultimately, it's far too short and easy. Even with all those issues fixed and content added, it would struggle to get over that 85% rating anyway, I feel. But a fantastic effort from Dean, great graphics from Simon and Craig, and well done Jean-Marie for this new version and music. And there you go. But anyway, I think it's time to take a look at the other versions of the game for the ZX Spectrum, Commodore 64, Atari ST and Amiga. So we begin with the ZX Spectrum, and Dean Belfield also did this port, and for once this wasn't the Lead Z80 version as we talked about earlier. The Amstrad one was. This came second to the CPC, and it does kind of show because it doesn't move as smoothly as the Amstrad one. But hey, at least you get sound effects, and you do get the city slowly appearing on the skydiving level, and that's nice though. This is a decent version of Sly Spy. It's perfectly playable, competently done, and fun. Although it's probably the lesser of the 8-bit versions, not quite as good as the Amstrad and the C64, which you'll see next. It's still a very, very good game, and I think if you're a fan of the coin-op, you're going to be very pleased with it. Like the Amstrad one, it fits in most of the arcade game, but is missing like the boss rush at the end of the game and some other bits and bobs here and there. But it still manages to cram in most of the original. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good version of the game. Dean's done a very, very good job here. I think the graphics are pretty good for the specky, and it's got some of the jingles and music here and there as well. So not bad at all, not bad at all. And of course, as mentioned earlier, it's a pretty rare game to find, especially the full price one. A few years ago, a copy of it went on eBay for nearly 250 quid. God knows what it would go on eBay in 2023. So if you're looking to buy the game, maybe look for the Hit Squad budget re-release, which won't go for too much money, hopefully. Anyway, let's move on to the Commodore 64. Now, this is a nice version with great presentation and graphics. It has music already on every level, and it plays okay, if a little stiffly, control-wise. Although Sly Spy, whilst ducking, can't actually duck below high shots, which is a bit WTF. Quite annoying. What's the point of having a duck move if you can't actually duck below enemies shooting at you? Another annoyance is the tape load between every level. And you know how short every level is. At least the Amstrad version sometimes gave you a few levels at a time on a tape load. Otherwise, before this new Amstrad version, which we've long played today, I would have easily said the Commodore 64 one was the best 8-bit version. It even includes the zip line, which was missing in the Amstrad version, or at least there was background graphics for it, but you couldn't actually use it. And the jetpack guys make an appearance in the levels, which didn't in the Amstrad one, and I don't think in the Spectrum version either. But however, now with this new Amstrad version with the music, is the Commodore 64 one still the best? I think graphically the Amstrad one has it beat, in my opinion. And honestly, I think the ST tunes, which are now converted to the CPC, sound preferable to my ears than the SID versions. But that's just my preference. I think same with the graphics. It's my preference. But I'll leave it up to you in the comments to decide. Which do you prefer? This Commodore 64 one or the Amstrad? You fight it out in the comments, boys and girls. Alright, on to the 16 bits with the Atari ST. And whilst looking graphically quite nice and very similar to the arcade, I wonder how much was actually transferred from the arcade. I don't know, was it redrawn? I think it was redrawn rather than actually ripped from the arcade board. It's a bit of a shame to see it moving quite so slowly. And why is there an ugly grey block around the bottom heads-up display of the screen there, and the scoreboard and stuff, and lives? And there's a lot of disc flipping between loading levels. That gets quite annoying. This might have been okay if it wasn't for the speed, but by 16-bit standards, firstly, it shouldn't have struggled as it does here. And secondly, Sly Spy's gameplay is looking very shallow here by 1990. As much as I love Sly Spy in the arcade, it's kind of 16-bit standards. It's looking a bit creaky, I think, but there you go. Okay, let's move on to the Amiga. Now the Amiga, and it will come as no surprise when you find both the Amiga and ST share the same coder of David J. Broadhurst, and this is an ST port. It plays and looks identically, apart from an improved looking heads-up display in the scoreboard at the bottom there. That nasty looking grey block on the ST is gone and now updated. The music has now been updated to a funky soundtrack that isn't very Spy or James Bond-esque. It's superior in sound quality though, but I'm not sure if I prefer it. Tough one to call which of the two 16-bit versions is better. I think I'll stick with the CPC or C64 ports if you have to play a conversion, simply because they're more of an impressive feat for an 8-bit machine. I mean, these two on the Amiga and ST, they're just a bit disappointing, really. Well, there you go, boys and girls. That's Sly Spy on the well, on the 8-bit and 16 machines, and on the Amstrad CPC and this new version from Jean-Marie. I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, I think I'll rate this new version, as I said, about 85%. Let me know what you think to this, and if you'll be checking it out. Do you think this makes a real significant difference to the original port and conversion of Sly Spy? I think it does, and I think sometimes music really makes a huge difference to a game. When sound effects and music is completely absent from a game, it just absolutely kills it. It ruins the atmosphere, and it just goes to show the difference sound makes. And with the absence of sound effects, I think it really takes a huge amount away from the game. And I think the game really just needs a couple of sound effects for a gun shooting and the impact on an enemy or your character. So maybe that could be added into by Jean-Marie. I don't know. But yeah, but there you go. The importance of sound and music in a game. Don't underestimate it, boys and girls. There you go. So thanks very, very much for watching, and if you wouldn't mind, consider supporting me on Patreon and joining the Am Squad to see more content like this. There you go. I'd very much appreciate it, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. Bye. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.
Oh, Sly.